Well, hey everybody, it is Monday night. It's check-in Monday. Grateful to have you joining me on tonight. Thank you so much. If you don't mind, let me know where you may be joining me from, or where you may be tuning in from or watching from. It's good to have you every Monday night, of course. We're here every Monday night to do check-in Mondays. We're here to talk. Hey, bro, Cooper, how you doing? We're here to talk every Monday night and just talk about checking in and caring and loving for one another. And also just to pray for those that have lost loved ones and those that have been affected not only by this coronavirus, but have been affected by so many other things. And every Monday night, we're here just to encourage you. And I've got so many of you that have texted me, emailed me, inboxed me, and said, Pastor Martin, thank you so much for sharing with us on these Monday night sessions and just talking and being transparent and being free. And so, again, here we are just to talk to you. If you know someone that may be going through the grieving process or whatever, share this with them, tag them in it or something, and just let them know that we're on talking, and whatever we can say tonight to be a help, it will be. I want to first say to my cousin, we call him Gene. He lost his wife, Tanisha, this past weekend, and certainly she's going to be missed there, and left three beautiful children. And so we're praying for them, Pastor James Curtis and his wife, and the River of Life Church. We're praying for them. That was a somewhat of a difficult one that happened, but in the midst of all that, we're praying, and so we'll continue to pray with them and pray for them. I want to talk to you very brief tonight about when the reality of it all sets in. That's grieving, the heart part. I want to talk about when the reality sets in. Grief is something that all of us sometimes we deal with, we have to deal with, and whether it's the loss of a loved one, it could be a family member, a friend, or whoever. Then you've got those that grieve through hurt and pains and different things like that. Grief can come in all type of forms. It's not just the thing. We'll be praying for your nieces. It's not just one thing it can come in. Most of the time we talk about grief, we're dealing with it with the loss of someone close to us, again, family or friends or whoever. But I want to talk to you tonight about when the reality of it all sets in. Many times when people pass in our lives, or when they're sick and they end up passing, sometimes, at first, sometimes it can be a shock if it was a sudden death. It could be a thing where you sort of get it catches you off guard. But if it's someone that had been sick a while and you are praying for their healing, but you also anticipating the fact that they may not make it, that's a different type of grief right there. And you have to set yourself and deal with it. And the reality of it is when it first happened, most of us are so busy trying our best to put things in place and get things in order, make sure programs are together, make sure we're reaching out to relatives and friends and those that were close. We're trying to reach them and let everyone know that your aunt passed or your brother passed or your sister passed. We're doing those things. And so we're basically really busy. There are people that may come by your house and share with you and talk with you. And you have some moments where you laugh and cry together. But you're basically trying to put everything together, get everything in order, get everything done. And especially before we hit the pandemic part of it, of course, that was something that all of us did, where we went out and tried our best to, share and do those things and just make sure the business part of things were taken care of. And so we did that. And then we go through the process of having the homegoing, that service, or during the pandemic, whether it's a graveside or whether it's at the chapel or whether you're social distancing at a service or whether you have to look at it on social media and they have to stream it. All of those things happen, and so the thing is sort of changed. And so once you get through that process, once you get through the process of dealing, coming up to the day of the service, you get to the service, you get through the service, and you hear people say, I'm going to be there for you if you need me. I'm only a phone call away. You get through all of that. And then after you get through that, then you go back and if before the pandemic, you would go back and you would have a a repast or a dinner or whatever. But then here's where we have to understand when reality sets in. The reality of the loss of a loved one or whoever really sets in after all those events are over, after the homegoing, after everything else is done. This is when reality really sets in, because it's in this time that you have some downtime. It's in this time that you have a down moment. It's in this time that you're not busy putting programs together or doing everything. And so now you've got that downtime. Now you're dealing with the reality that now this person is actually gone. They're not coming back. You're not going to talk to them again. They're not going to come out of a room. They're not going to visit your home. They're not going to do any of that. So now reality sets in. And this can be one of the hardest parts. This reality setting in can be the grieving process. Now can be the hardest part, one of the hardest parts of all the things that are going on. Why? Because now you've seen them, whether they lowered the casket, whether they put, and seal the casket or whatever. That was okay. That was a reality. But now going back home, especially if it's a person that lived with you, or a person you were close to, a person that you talked to every day, or a person that you knew, now you've got to deal with the reality that I've got to get it in my mind that they're no longer here. And that is something that most of us sometimes have a little issue with dealing with. And we have to be honest. There's nothing wrong with it, but we just have to be honest. When you go back, when reality sets in and you got to deal with that fact, and you got to deal with them not being there, you got to deal with the fact that you pick up the phone to call them and then realize that they are no longer here. Or you get up to do things and you realize they're no longer here. Now you've got to deal with that. Now reality is setting in. Now that's a whole different level. That's a whole different thing of grief now that you're dealing with. Why? For the mere fact that I have never been in this place before, or you've never been without them before. Now you've got to deal with the fact that they're no longer around. So here is the reality that you're checking and now you're doing. And now you have to come to a place in your mind and in what you're doing. How do I deal with this? How do I move on from here? How do I process this in my mind? And understand it is a emotional process that you have to deal with. And people will make you feel that it's not, but it's very emotional to have to deal with something when you are dealing with the loss of a mother, father, sister, brother, a friend, someone that was close, someone that you were able to share your secret with, or share the things that were dearest to your heart. You were able to share them. Now, though that person is gone, and now you don't have that comfort. Now you don't have that person that you can lean on. And now you've got to deal with this grief. It's a whole different thing, because many times the other part of this is what makes it hard is this reality. Now we've got to go through the things that they've left, and those things can be, they can be some things that whether it's their clothing, whatever, it could be, oh my God, it could be taking care of their accounts. You taking care of the things that you have to take care of for them now, and maybe you were left where you were the head of the estate or whatever it is. You got to deal with that, and you've got to deal with that all together and say to yourself, now I've got to deal with this. It's a reality. And I was mad at God for a long time. There are people that were angry with God. I've got a young lady, her sister died. They were twins. And she just told me, said, Pastor, I don't know how to deal with God right now. And I didn't rebuke her. I understood. And she's coming around, but some people, they just feel, God, what are you doing? Why did that happen? And they don't understand. And so it's our job to understand that sometimes people are going through things that we can't really relate to because we didn't go through them or we hadn't experienced that. But now they've got to go through all of their things, their clothing. They've got to go, again, their bank accounts. They've got to go through, the things that they've accumulated. They've got to make a decision whether to see who can take them or if they're going to give them away. Or some people, they are connected and they hold them for a long time. They don't get rid of them. And so these are things, that's the reality of the thing that happens when someone is lost or when you lose a loved one. Then that hard part of grieving, that hard part, that reality sets in. Now you've got to deal with these things as they come. You got to deal with these things as they are. And this is a hard part. And I know we don't like to talk about this, but there are people that are dealing with this in a way that if they're not careful, it can shift over into depression if you're not careful. I had a conversation as I was preparing tonight to talk about this. I had a conversation with Lady Martin earlier today, and we were just there. And I asked her, I said, tell me what is the hardest part for you? And I said, because, people tell you that when the services and stuff are going on, I'm a phone call away. I'm all you got to do is call me and whatever. And she said something that I had never thought about and something that I think would help a lot of us that was so profound. And she said these words. She said, I know they want to help us. I know they want to be there for us. And I believe that. She said, but I also know that when it hits me, it may not be convenient for them to be there. She said, because this thing you have no control on when it hits you. You have no control when you have to deal with it. And I stopped thinking about that because that's true. Sometimes you can't control when grief hits you. You can't control when you feel a certain kind of way. You can't control that. It's something that hits, and you cannot control that feeling. That she said it may hit you at 3:30 in the morning. You can't call people. She said it may hit you at 2 in the morning, and that's true. You may be in your bed feeling fine, and then all of a sudden that thing hits you, and it's at a time period that you can't even call your family or friends, and you may be just laying there in the bed with tears flowing down your eyes. You may be weeping and crying and thinking, and sometimes you have to get up and find something to do, occupy your time. It can hit you not only at home, it can hit you on your job, it can hit you in the strangest places. It can hit you, and it's one of those things that you have to understand that when it hits you, sometimes you find a space or a place to go where people won't look at you crazy and funny, but it's after now. And now there's no getting busy to get things together. Now you've got to deal with it the way it is. And now here comes the hard part, because now I've really, in so many instances, I've got to deal with this almost by myself. And it just depends on when it is. There's no friends around to deal with this. There's no family. And you got to deal with it. And the strange part about it is sometimes you're dealing with this, it may be months later, and it may just hit you in the middle of the day, and you just break out and you can't explain to people why you're crying. You can't explain to people why you feel a certain way. And I want to tell you something that's very important. I think if you get this, you'll be a whole lot better. Stop always looking for people to understand where you are in your grieving process. Everyone is not going to get it. Everyone is not going to understand it. Everyone, it's almost like a person, if they've never experienced it, sure enough, then they will never be able to really tell you how to deal with something they've never experienced. If they experienced it, then they have a sort of an idea on how to share with you, how to embrace, how to let you know how they're feeling, what's going on. They have a somewhat of a clue. But if they don't, then you'll find that they will somewhat make you feel bad because they don't know how to really say what needs to be said. And they don't know what it is that they need to say to you. And so when they don't know what they need to say, they will, they will just say something that may be too far over. And so you have to say to yourself, okay, now I got to deal with the reality of all of this, that I'm dealing with this by myself at this point. I don't get to, do some things. And I know sometimes people, and we've all said it, just think on the good parts, and we do those things, but the missing of a person is still difficult to deal with if if you deal with that. I hear you. I wish someone to call me when my mother died, but I didn't have no one to talk to. And that's another issue. Sometimes we don't have people to talk to, and you don't have people that sometimes understand. For some reason, I don't know why it is, but everyone wants us to get over everything so quick. And we're not going to wallow in grief forever. Don't get me wrong. We will move from that place. It'll get better as time goes on. And I told you, time heals a lot of things. But, sometimes that rushing and trying to make believe something is not there will take you to a place where you could do. I was watching one of my favorite shows the other night, Perry Mason, and the plot was that a lady's baby had died, and they made a plot as though it looked like their baby had been kidnapped. And the baby hadn't been kidnapped, the baby had just died. And so what the lady did was they big this whole thing about the baby being dead or whatever. And when they came back from what they thought was the ransom, the thing that really happened was the lady said, "Oh, the baby is back." And she went up in the room, and they followed her, and she was like, "Oh, my baby's in his crib. My baby's back. My baby's back." And they looked at each other because the crib was empty. But the lady had went to a place that wasn't reality, and she was seeing a baby in a bed that wasn't there. And sometimes, people don't want us to deal with the reality of things. The reality of a thing is just the reality of it. They're gone. They're not coming back tomorrow, today, next week. You just won't have those conversations. They're not here. So what do? Now you have to deal with the reality that is now set in. I don't have anything to really occupy. I've got all this time on my hand. I get to sit around and think about it, look at pictures and all that kind of stuff. So now I have to deal with it. And this can be one of the hardest parts when you've got to go and, again, go through things. You've got to share things. You've got to disperse things. You've got to deal with the business that's left. That can be the hardest part. That can be one of the hardest parts you got to do. I often say to you that my uncle, this year, March 20th, this month, March 20th, he would have been dead 6 years. He died 2015. I was out today in my garage, and I got some of his stuff there. I've got some of his stuff at church, and I've got all his um, sermon books, and it's about 20 or 30 of them. I got all his books. Some of them I went through. Some of them they're just there, and I'll go through them eventually. Then over here in my thing in my office, I got about it's got to be about 10 black thick things of CDs. He used to collect CDs like he collect records, and each one of those CD cases may have probably about I'm thinking about 200 or 300 CDs in each one of those things. I mean, CDs from way back in the day. I've got all of those. I got all of those things, and so I go through them every now and then. I've got all his clothing. I got his shoes. I've got he wore a lot of robes. I got his robes. I've got his Bibles. I got most of all the stuff, his picture books. I got most of all the stuff he had. I've got it. And eventually I'll get to sit down and go through all that, because I know he just collected this stuff. He collected over 1,000 records and albums. And I've got all of those things. I've got them. Every last one of them. And so understand, going through his things, coming up on 6 years, I haven't went through all this stuff. Will I go through it? Hopefully. I plan on it. I just haven't got to it yet. And so you get to that place that you don't get to everything. You don't get to go through everything. You don't get to do everything. The reality sets in that I've got to deal with this, and this may be the hardest part that I've got to deal with, is now going through what has been left. And you're talking about a lifetime of things that have been accumulated that I've got to go through. And some things have an emotional attachment to it. They have an emotional attachment. You just don't understand. You know, we get upset with people. Honestly, we get upset with people when someone dies or passes in their life, and they hold on to items or things that their loved one had, whether it's their grandmother, mother, or whatever, and we sort of, demonize them and say bad things, not understanding that these are items that they were given to them or whatever. And so those items that were given to them, they cherish them because they were given to them. These things that I just described to you, my uncle gave me all of those things before he passed. He gave me a whole collection of C.L. Franklin albums. I got all those. I got a whole collection of Pastor Jasper Williams. I got a whole collection of tape catalog of C.L. Franklin, Davis Sisters albums. I got all this stuff. I got all of it. Probably sitting on a gold mine really here. But my point is, he gave it to me, so it's precious to me. Now, to somebody else, it means nothing. To somebody else, it's just some CDs. To somebody else, it's just some records. To somebody else, it could be just a ring, or it could be just a table, or it could be whatever. Don't mean nothing to nobody else. But they didn't have that connection sometimes that you had. So it means a lot to you. And sometimes it's hard for you to part with those things because they mean so much to you. And this is where this becomes hard, because I just can't part with the things that were given to me. Some of these things are precious to me, and so I just can't act like and throw them away. And so I think that we have to, talk about these things, deal with them. And I think it's very important for us to do that, to know that if we are talking about it, if we are dealing with it, if we are sharing it and just dealing with the reality of all this, that it is difficult at times. It's hard. And I want to encourage those of you that are entering into this phase. I saw one of my friends the other day said, now comes the hard part. Correct. But I want to encourage those of you You're going to make it. You're going to be all right. You're going to come through it. I want to encourage my sister tonight. Every one of us needs someone that understands. Sometimes you just need someone that can listen and understand. Not so much to talk. Just hear me out. Let me get this off my chest. Let me talk about it. Let me talk about the memories. Let me cherish the things. And in my conclusion tonight, I do want to say this. It's the hardest part, but I want to tell you something that I need all of you to do. Whenever you're grieving, whenever there's a grieving going on, whether it's for the loss of a loved one, if you're grieving over something that happened in your life that was detrimental, I want to say to you, make sure in the midst of your grieving and while you're in the grieving process that you really pray. I know you don't feel like it all the time, but really pray. And do not make decisions that are important, really important decisions, sometime in the first part or the heavy part of your grieving. Because sometimes we can make decisions that will carry a long period of grief, a long period of things. Sometimes you got to step back and not make any decisions right then. Sometimes you got to step back and just say, I'm not going to make a lot of decisions. I'm just going to sit back and be still. Because sometimes when you're grieving, this is how people take advantage of you. When you're in the grieving process, people will bring you all kind of stuff. And because you're grieving, and they can sell it to you almost, and you go and you do it, and it could cause you a lifetime of disappointment, hurt, feeling a certain kind of way because you were grieving. So I say to you, while you're grieving, please, by all means, learn to not make major decisions that you don't have to make. If it's not something that you got to make tomorrow, don't do that. Take your time, make your decisions, and do your stuff. And then those of you that, if you are blessed and they left you something, whether it's money or settlement or whatever, even with that, take your time. Don't go and do something major. And don't let everyone know that you got something. Don't tell the world, because when you're grieving, sometimes, unfortunately, people take advantage of you sometime in those situations. So I say to you, be encouraged. I say to you, keep on doing what you're doing. And know that we're praying for you. Know that things will get better. Time will bring about some resolve on some of these things, and you'll find out that you will come out all right. You'll come out better. You'll come out on the other side of this. And when you do, you'll find that you'll be blessed. And so I need you to just keep it up, keep holding your head up, keep doing what you got to do, and watch God do something great for you. Let's pray. Father, we thank you and we praise you tonight for those that are watching, for those that will watch. I pray, God, in the midst of grieving, in the midst of this process of grieving, in the losing of a loved one, in the loss of a loved one, I pray that you would touch them and give them strength, God. Many of them have to make even decisions concerning the belongings and the things and the business of the loved one that is lost. I pray tonight that you would give them the right way and lead them, guide them, order their steps tonight, and cause them to do that will benefit, that will help, that will lift them. I pray that you bless them tonight. Many of them have to deal with all of these things, and they are dealing with the reality of the loved one that is gone. I pray now, God, that you would let them know through your love and your divine power that you are their strength, that you will lift them, encourage them, that you will touch them, and let them know that everything is going to be all right. I thank you tonight because I believe you. I thank you tonight because I trust you with them. I pray for those that, the one that asked for us to pray for his nieces, I pray that you would touch his nieces tonight. God, to give them strength and give them courage. Lay hands on them, sustain them, and keep them. Uphold them with your right hand. God, and we'll give your name praise, and we'll give your name glory. we'll exalt your name and we'll lift you up. Hallelujah. And we'll thank you for it being done. In Jesus' name, we thank you now. Amen. The Lord bless you and the Lord keep you. Oh, my God. We're praying for each and every one of you, and we're praying that the Lord would bless you. I'm serious. The Lord will bless you, and the Lord will do great things for you. I am just, I'm here to talk about it because we got to have this conversation. So many people are hurting, and you'll be surprised of how many people are on the verge and right on the brink of maybe committing suicide or something. We got to pray for them. And so we're praying for them, and we're going to lift them up and keep them in prayer. The Lord bless you, and the Lord keep you tonight. Thank you so much for joining. We look to see you next Monday as we do Check-In Monday. Pray for me, pray for my family, and keep us in prayer. Thank you once again for joining me, and the Lord bless you. And just remember that our best days are ahead of us and not behind.